Hey,
Recording.
what's up, everybody?
Hey,
To another edition of the Brothers Who Talk
Whew, it's been a
podcast,
while.
video podcast. So we appreciate you rocking with us and hanging with us. We have an awesome show today. We're going to be talking about mental health and all the stereotypes around it, and why you might need a therapist, even though you might feel like you don't. And we're going to dig into that today. So stay tuned as we come right back.
Welcome to another episode of the Brothers Who Talk with Terry and AD. This podcast is about men talking about everyday shenanigans, the stuff that makes us mad, to the topics that concern why in the world do these guys have a podcast. Let's get to it.
And we're back.
Well, you were 100% clown. That was crazy. And we're back.
All right. So I have my brother Matt coming through. Yes, that he's gonna break down some stuff, but we're gonna talk about our day and stuff that's making us mad, and we want to include Matt because Matt got some stuff to share as well. All right. Yeah. So without further ado, my brother Matt. I feel like I messed his last name up, and I've heard it. Here we go.
Don't do it then. Don't do it then. Woo, 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 woo.
Let's go. How's it going, fellas?
What's happening, man? I'm glad to have you aboard, man.
Yes, indeed. So
good stuff.
We always start off. I'm gonna put it in Terry's lap. Tell him what's going on and what's making him mad this week. Terry, what's going on in your world, brother?
Well, in my world, it's kind of the same thing. It's redundant for me, working and taking care of the family and all of that. But, what's really got in my craw, though, what's really made me mad, and this is kind of commonplace because everybody in the country is going through it. And this whole transition of power between, the projected winner, according to Fox News, and Vice President-elect Joe Biden, according to CNN. So it just depends on who you ask, right? So this whole transition of power thing and why President Petty Poopy Pants won't leave the White House or let them do whatever. And it's upsetting me. But what's upsetting me the most is that these people are just, some Republicans, not all, some are just under this idea that we're just going to wish the second term in the play. Like Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said the other day in the press conference, he was asked by a reporter, he said, will there be a peaceful transition of power? He looked that woman square in her face on camera and said, yeah, they'll see her again. Yes, there's going to be a peaceful transition of power to a second term for Donald Trump. Like, how'd you get that? What? I don't understand. So it's that idea that's driving me insane, and it's keeping President Biden, the projected winner, President Biden. I'm sorry, I'm gonna get it together. We're gonna do Fox News today. The projected winner, Joe Biden, is keeping him from getting his team together, transitioning, getting what he needs. So on January 20th. Right. When the inauguration happens, he's ready to go. But these people are just really off their rocker. They done created a whole media platform with what's the website?
The app that we're not going to discuss. Yes, indeed.
Oh, that one. And they all flocking to it.
No shine. We're not giving them any shine.
They all flocking to it. It's amazing. The idiotic. The people just ain't using all their common sense. But I realize that common sense in some folks ain't as common as we like it to be. So that's what making me mad. Like, you lost, bro. Move.
So
pay your moving expenses. That's what you say.
So what's going on in your world, Matt? What's happening with you, as well as what's kind of making you mad this week?
Yeah. So this week was a little different for me because I'm in private practice as a mental health professional, and you can't predict what your clients are going to do. Who's going to come in and COVID and all this other stuff that's going on, political unrest. And so for me, I'm warring with myself. So I was a little bit upset thinking, sometimes you go at war with your ego, thinking that it's about you, why, the client's not responding in a particular way, not knowing that they have their own stuff on and not to internalize it. So I was a little bit in my feelings, if I have to be honest, because I felt like the slight decline in my client's activity was a reflection of my ability to be a good therapist, and it has no bearing on that. None. Absolutely none. And so I got out of it just in the blink of an eye with the influx of inquiries, calls, for people to actually come in.
Okay.
As soon as I started to doubt, that's that word right there. As soon as I started to doubt,
right.
Talking about waves of people started to inquire again.
Nice.
Sometimes you do doubt, whatever position you're in. Sometimes you feel like, do I still got it? Am I still relevant? Am I still producing? And it hit me. It hit me this week, and I was like, dang, man, but as soon as it came, the wave came right afterwards. So that was what was it?
Awesome. Just as fast. That's one thing I love about God, man.
Yeah.
Just as fast that doubt creep in, he opens that door away. It's amazing how he does that. AD,
yeah.
What got you all jizzy in your spirit this week, man?
So it's been kind of a rough week. The passing of an amazing man, Pastor Brian McCory's son. So it's kind of a rough week with that. And realizing the cost of funeral is amazing. And because I've been through them, and I've had to sit down, but I've never really had the chance to count up the cost.
Right.
And it is astronomical. But what's making me mad?
Woosah, brother.
Woosah.
Is this recurring issue with my offspring, my junior, my prince, the one who's gonna inherit the throne?
Hey, Jay, Prince Hakeem in the building.
It just testing my nerves. Like, listen, I'm a man with a lot of. Anyone that's ever known me know I'm a man with a lot of patience. My temperament is like even tone. Like I can weather some stuff, but my son, I love him. Listen, I want him to know, like, hearing this 10 years, 20 years from now, know that I'll always love you, son. But in this time, 2020, you have pushed my nerves to the limit. So yeah, he's not taking care of his business in school like he should. And it's rough when it's like you don't really question this hard, because I got a daughter and a son. I got a daughter that's like, school, rah, school. Yeah, can't be off. What? I can't go to school. What's going on? Then I got a son that says, what? Can't go to school. Oh yeah. Right.
You like Kevin Hart.
And he just got to be on the computer. And he just got kicked out of a class because he wasn't taking an assessment. I don't know. He was browsing other stuff, and we positioned him so that every time we come out of the room or transition, we can see exactly what he's doing. So you would think,
wait, you
got to raise your accountability. Like it's kind of like those at work. Someone's monitoring, so you don't go on sites that will like get you fired.
Right.
So you think, no. So I don't know.
He got kicked out of a virtual class?
Yeah.
That's some talent right there. That's some talent.
So that's what I got coming into this broadcast, this podcast today. So yeah.
Matt, Matthew.
There you go,
Mr. Matt.
Yes,
help me out here. How does one get kicked out of a virtual class?
You gotta be.
Where is AJ at? I'm about to call him later.
You gonna put him on?
I'm like, come.
Yeah, so I'm a little. Yeah.
AJ. Okay.
All right. So
we're praying for you, son.
Yes, indeed. Please pray for me. Pray for strength. Pray for patience.
You know what? I wish Siri would leave me alone.
Gotta lay some hands. So yeah. All right. So
hit him with all you gotta do is hit him with a Stone Cold Stunner or RKO. He'll get back right. He'll get back right.
But yeah, so that's what my week is. ups and downs of life, you know.
AJ, I am just.
But I'm
Terry's
excited to
upset,
have
but
my brother on, Matt. We had him and his lovely wife on at the beginning of the week with
Yep.
Purposeful Forever. And I knew that he digs into the mental health space. And it's been, it seemed like 2020, we're really tackling that mental health space and Black men and mental health and kind of the challenges that we're dealing with. And historically, unfortunately, we don't encourage therapy. We just kind of encourage, pray it out, get over it, and move forward. Deal with it. And for the most part, as men, Black men, we kind of take the issues and push them to the side, push them down, and not deal with them. But unfortunately, what happens, as an individual, you kind of figure a way to get through it. But when you get into a relationship,
that's gotta be different.
Your significant other kind of brings out all that pain, because we're dealing with each other. Like, why are you not doing this? Why you can't do this? Why are you not being a part of this? And you have all these hangups that you've never addressed. But the thing is, and I'm gonna let Matt kind of dig into it. What I realized is because I'm in this married group and they talk about why they don't. But I realized you don't know these are issues until you're with somebody else. And they said, that's not healthy that you like to do. And that's not healthy that you're never, talk to anybody, but you've gotten accustomed to it. And you got people around you that kind of encourage, long as you're working, long as you're making money, because I think about stars, long as you're performing, you're fine. When in fact, you're so damaged that, no one wants to rock that boat because they know if you start getting help, you might not be as creative. So I think about things like that. Whereas, like you said, you never know. Did he freeze?
No, I mean,
he just paused. Okay.
Yeah. But his pause game is epic. You see?
Right. So talk to us about. So my first question: How do we deal with something before we really recognize it? In a sense, does that make sense? Like, how to come, because you don't know, like I said, you don't realize what issues you have until you get into a relationship and you have someone else that's with you all the time saying, "Listen, you got some anger issues, you got this issue, or you're dealing with this." How can you do an assessment of where you are in the mental health?
Yeah. Well, first of all, man, I appreciate this platform, man. I think this is such a powerful means to connect people with the right resources. And just to have this conversation, man, it's going to change somebody's life. Somebody's going to be hearing this and they're gonna be like, yeah, this was for me. This was exactly for me. So let me start by saying that speaking about mental health isn't an easy thing for the Black community in general. Men more so. But the Black community in general, we have had issues in the past with medical professionals, and the mental health field is a medical field. It's just a little different because it's talk therapy, it's psychotherapy, and so it's a little different, but we still are categorized as medical professionals, And so because the Black community have had issues with the past with medical professionals, it puts us in that category to where there's a trust-mistrust relationship that we have had for a very long time.
Right.
So we aren't necessarily going to trust individuals that come with a white coat or with a tone of authority in our lives because they have mismanaged our trust for a very long time. Right. If you look back in history, I think I mentioned this on the show, there were a lot of disenfranchised community that have been impacted by medical professionals.
Right.
We talk about the Tuskegee experiment, cholera in Haiti, the AIDS epidemic in Africa, all these different things. Right. We were paying attention, And I even went back as far as slavery. When a slave would run away, they would label that slave, give that slave a diagnosis saying that slave was outside of their mind, so that they could have a better life outside the plantation. So you're diagnosed as a crazy individual to leave that state.
Right. That's where they came from.
I can't remember where they came from. Terminology. What's that?
I didn't know that. You know what? I heard that phrase.
Yeah.
are you outside of your mind?
Wow.
Okay.
Right.
Know that.
So it starts there with the trust mistrust relationship, meaning we don't know if the medical professionals have our best interests in mind. So we're gonna be like, I don't know, I'm gonna go when I'm good and ready to, right?
Right.
Some will say I'll never go at all. And so for the black male, you have that aspect as well. And then you have the social engineering that has happened over the years living in a Western civilization that has allowed us to feel more individualistic instead of communal.
Right.
What that means is that we can do it on our own. I got this, and then as a man in general, you have to man up. You can't necessarily expose your emotions too much, or your man card will be tested. And so all those things have stacked up against why we aren't necessarily a fan of addressing our mental health issues in our communities. So by the time we get to being engaged or being married, and all the issues start to come to the surface, you're like, what? Something's wrong with me? You're not aware. You're not aware because no one has actually, you haven't had the opportunity to address these things in real time. And a lot of these behaviors, a lot of these mental issues have been normalized in our community.
Right.
To where we would pray them away, we would, smoke them away, we would drink them away, we would party them away, we would use our own ways of medicating ourselves to get to a different space. But as we know, it doesn't always work like that when you're in a relationship. It
does not.
One of the primary things I believe that separate us from having these conversations in our relationship is the fact that men, black men, let's talk about us. We don't understand the safety that's required to be emotional and vulnerable for ourselves, even. We don't fully understand what is necessary to get into that space. And so when it's required of us in a relationship, we're like, I don't even do that for myself. I don't even think about my feelings, or I don't even think about what's going on with me. And now I'm required to not just think about me, but to consider your feelings, your mental, your emotional, and all this. That's a tall ask, So by the time I get the men and the women in here, I have to go backwards and do a lot of fixing of understanding, re-education, basically. Re-education about communication, about trust, mistrust with the mental health professional, about normalizing mental health issues, about even letting people understand what mental health even is, And so, there's a lot of education that comes up. I'm sorry, guys. Let me get back on here. I had my screen just did something real quick. But there's a lot of issues that come up that I have to really go back in and really clear the air first before we can start doing the heavy lifting in the couple sessions.
Wow.
Man, that's deep. But I've always said for years that we as men, I think without being diagnosed formally, I think I really went through some PSD issues back in the day because of post-traumatic stress. The traumatic experience of not being when I first found out that my dad wasn't my dad at 17.
Wow.
That put me into post-traumatic stress, and I lived with that for years. Just like Matt said, is that people question your manhood. Suck that up.
Right.
Be more of a man and not show this, not show that. But it took me years to realize that it was PSD. It wasn't kind of that level. Right. Because at 16, my mother crushed my whole life.
Wow.
When she told me that the man that raised me for 16 years wasn't my father.
Yeah.
No. And I went through, and that's a trickle down effect. And it's like planting a seed and roots will spread because everything started being affected. I was mad at women.
Right.
I hated my mother.
Wow.
I had so much stuff that was going on, and I just didn't want to deal with it. It was easier for me to go into a shell and say, I'm not dealing with that mental health stuff. Ain't nothing wrong with me. I'm good. I just got to get over the fact that my mom lied to me for 16 years.
Yeah.
And I think that's how most black men handle things. It's like,
yeah,
it's all right. I'm good. What happened?
That's it. Man up. Keep going, man. You got this, man. And we propose all these, minor antidotes, when you're like bleeding, like you're bleeding, and somebody trying to tell you, put a Band-Aid on it, man, you're good, keep going.
Right.
And bro, I've been in that boat before, to where I didn't realize. I'm talking about, I'm a college student at this time at Florida A&M University, and I didn't
Aggie, right?
What's that?
Y'all the Aggies, right? No, the Rattlers. You guys are the Rattlers. I'm sorry.
Let's get it right, man. Come on, man.
Yeah. Y'all band is the best. I promise.
Okay. See, I was a part of that band too. I was in 100.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
100.
Nice.
But I was up there in school dealing with anxiety and depression, and I didn't even know it.
Right.
I didn't even know it. It manifests more so as anger. That's the emotion that we normally see being exposed in Black men, anger, because that's the one that's usually accepted in our community. You can be angry, man, but you can't be sad, you can't be depressed, you can't be angry. With Bone Crusher, I ain't never scared. I mean, when that song came up, I ain't never scared. Now you can never be anxious after that song.
You can never be. No.
Now you can never be scared. Why? Because you're a Black man in America. You can't be scared.
Right.
Because if you are, then then your man card is pulled and stuff like that. So with all of this miseducation, I didn't get the therapy until I was 26.
Right.
I didn't get my first sit down in front of another Black male, which was good for me because that's what I needed, until I was 26. And then in my first session, I lied the entire session.
Wow.
I lied, man. I'm like, man, I don't know this dude, man. He's from Miami, man. I don't know you, man. You know what I'm saying? So I lied. I lied the entire session because I still didn't trust. I didn't know how to trust people and open up.
Right.
And he gave me that space. I'm so grateful for Dr. Johnson. That's his name. I'm so grateful for him because he gave me that space. He knew I was BSing. Other Black men, we call each other out, but he gave me that space. He allowed me to just have that first session, BS it, not take it serious at all. When I came back subsequently, he's like, look, man, I need you to be truthful. That's the only way this is going to work. He created that space for me to open up when I was ready. He didn't pressure me. He didn't push me when I was ready, And so that helped me address a lot of my anger, which was just masking my anxiety and my depression, So
we walk a lot of.
I went and it's so funny that you talk about school. When I was going to South Carolina State, it I realized, like, I used to write a journal. Like, I used to write down how my feelings and stuff. And I read my journal like 5-10 years later. Wow. And I was like, man, this kid was depressed. I was. It's like, it was sad. Like, I was really, really depressed. I guess moving away and just being lonely, it just was a struggle. And subsequently, I dropped out of school because I was like, this is not working. I'm not focused. I'm just like, I found, what's funny? I found my solace when I went to the radio station.
Wow.
Like I started working and helping down there, but they didn't major in it. There's a minor. I was like, I can't be here all the time, because if there was a major, I would have killed it.
So for me, music was that. Music was my escape. So when I wasn't in the, practicing with the band or marching, I was in the music lab producing music,
Wow.
And I failed all my classes because that's where I stayed,
Yeah.
I eventually got kicked out of school because, my mind wasn't there. My comfort zone was music. And that's where I thrive.
Right. Go ahead, Terry.
I have a dumb analogy, but I want to say it anyway. And I'm good for those. On here, Matt. Anybody listeners know I'm good for those. But are we familiar with the movie Venom?
Yes.
Okay. So as you guys were talking, I was thinking in my head, my eyes kind of got shifted. If you watch my eyes a little bit, I got shifted. I was thinking. You remember in the beginning of the movie when the symbiote got free, and they were transferring the symbiote from one person to another just by touching them.
Right.
And everybody's eyes turned black.
Right.
And then they were traumatized by the symbiote.
Right.
My analogy is this: the symbiote is that PTSD I was talking about earlier.
Right.
That bad stuff that we went through earlier. And if we don't, as men, if we don't get that fixed, guess what? We're talking about relationships and marriages and all that. We're touching the next person and we're transferring this symbiote from one to the next. And it's like,
that's a good one.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I thought about that all by myself too. That's what we're doing, and we're just transferring this thing. And at some point, the cycle has to stop. And this is where you incorporate a person like Matt
Yes.
who is going to be able to say, okay, brother, I'm gonna call you on your stuff. This is where we at.
Right. Yeah.
This is ABC. Where do we go from here? You know,
Wow. So,
I didn't have that person. It took me some years to get it on my own.
right.
But when you have people who are have the letters behind their name and they went to school for this, they want to help.
Right.
That's what the folks you reach out to, and it shouldn't. You can cut 15 years of nonsense down to a year and a half if you just incorporate somebody else into the equation.
Yeah. A couple of things, man. What you just said was perfectly aligned with what I've studied and what I've seen. Trauma is transgenerational. You know, that means whatever happens in the previous generation, we're going to be the recipients of that. You know, we are going to be the recipients of that to the point to where there is something that's called post-traumatic slave syndrome. You know, a lot of the impacts of slavery are still being had in our communities right now, man. Yeah. That's how bad it was. That's how traumatic it was. But let's not even go there, because that's one aspect. People be like, oh, that was, years ago. Let's talk about our generation in our household. You know, the household we grew up in. There was a study that was conducted in 1994, 95 by the CDC called the Adverse Childhood Experience Study, right?
Okay.
This study done by the CDC, Center for Disease Control, back in 1994, 1995, studied over 17,000 individuals. That's a great sample size for any nerd out there. The glass is like, oh man, the numbers. That's a great sample size, seriously, because you can tell a lot of correlational factors when you have a great sample size. What they did was they gave all those individuals a full health checkup to see where they were. These individuals were in their 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Right.
They checked to see where they were physically. Blood, bone, heart, everything. They checked everything. And once they found the results of their negative health statuses where they were, then they correlated that negative health status to their childhood traumatic experiences.
Wow.
And what they found out was that the more traumatic experiences you have as a child, the higher the likelihood of those negative health outcomes when you become an adult.
Wow.
Blew my mind. I'm like, so you're trying to tell me that they've known about, and of course they've probably known about this way sooner. So you're trying to tell me they know that traumatic experiences in childhood will lead you directly towards a shorter lifespan.
Wow.
And this isn't information that the entire Black community knows. We're not knocking on doors, making sure that my brother, my sister, my auntie, my uncle know this information. This is something that we're screening for on a daily basis. When we see our young Black men and we label them ADHD, ODD, all these different things, we're not accounting for the childhood trauma that they're experiencing.
Right.
You can't tell a kid, I grew up in the city of Opa-locka in Miami, which is like, that's the hood, right? You can't expect me to, have a shootout the evening, right? In the evening, and the next morning go take a spelling test at the school. Right.
True.
Go do a math quiz,
Right.
Still, don't punch this kid in the face, all this traumatic experiences that are occurring in my community and my environment is going to impact me when I'm outside of that environment.
Wow.
So what you said earlier about post-traumatic stress, that's exactly what it is. A lot of people who grew up in urban environments, they have PTSD, and I can tell you exactly what that looks like, right? I still have homeboys when they go in the restaurants as adults, they're still looking, oh, let me check where the exit's at, Oh, that guy looks sketchy over there. I don't trust that dude right there. Why you got that coat on? Why you got that coat on, brother?
Right.
Because we can't trust. We can't trust. We feel like our safety is always compromised.
Yes.
So we're always looking for it. And if you look for it, you're going to find it.
Right.
You're living in a state of perpetual anxiety because you can't trust your environment to be a safe space for you. So what you do is you do everything that you can to live in a space to where you always ready to fight or flight.
Right.
I was going to say that. My wife loved that term.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I could do a whole presentation on that one right there, fight or flight, because there's way more to it. But I was trying to address your point of talking about post-traumatic stress. We're talking about when you go through a traumatic experience as a child, 0 to 18. There's a surge of adrenaline that's coursed into your body, adrenaline and cortisol, right? What that does for a child over a period of time, it slows down their brain development.
Right.
The first thing it impacts is your capacity to learn.
Run that back.
Okay, right?
In the back.
There you go. I got you. I'm gonna double back on that one because these are things that when I found out, it changed my view of myself. I actually thought I was a stupid kid. I thought I was ignorant. I thought I was incompetent.
Right.
But when I realized that every time I experienced a traumatic event in my life, surges of adrenaline and cortisol is pumped into my system. After a while, because I'm not utilizing it to run, to fight, to do something with it, it stays in my system. And if it stays in your system, the first thing it impacts as a child is your brain development. And if your brain isn't developing at a regular pace, then it's going to slow down your capacity to learn. So what I'm saying is that a lot of the kids that are in urban settings, when you see their grades are low, these kids aren't dumb, these kids aren't stupid. It's the fact that they're traumatized. You're not going to get the best out of them because their minds are in trauma mode. The same environment that we want to have for a veteran when they come home, medication, doctors. This is what we need to do for our communities, because our communities are heavily traumatized, not just inside the household, but a lot of things that occurred in our environment are traumatizing. We've normalized them because, that's our experience. So it's like, yeah, man, dude got shot the other day. Oh, yeah, man. Right. So we've normalized these things, but these things aren't normal. They mess up your insides to where if enough of them occur to in your life, then it will have a negative health outcome when you become an adult. High blood pressure. You already know that's one of the killers of the Black community. Cholesterol, bone marrow disease, cardiovascular disease, substance use, all these different things could be a result of having traumatic experience in your childhood. And we're not addressing these things. We're just labeling ourselves and allowing others to look at us as insignificant based on our traumatic experiences. But that's not the full story. The full story is that we're sick and we need healing to get to a space of clarity so that we can address each other in healthy ways.
Okay, so you went somewhere that I'm going to ask you something.
Sure.
This is going to be very slightly controversial. Listen to what you're saying. So when traumatic things happen, or things that are heighten your fear or your emotions, they affect your learning.
Right.
So when it comes to your children and disciplining, can that have a long-term effect if it's done? I guess in a traumatic way, like, where there's a constant fear, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. My wife and I told you guys on the previous, interview you guys did, that we're writing a book called Identity Focused Parenting, right? In that book, we're going to use the Jackson 5 as a case study. Their lives, it's no secret to what they dealt with when they were in their youth from Joe Jackson. There's no secret. So only reason I chose them was because, that's a popular family that people really know about. Because
they know. Everybody knows what happened. Right.
They live their lives out loud. So, and I don't like to get in people's lives like that, throw shit or anything like that. So, but we've seen how their childhood has impacted their adulthood.
Right. A
lot of the dysfunction that happened in their youth produced a lot of talent, but it also produced a lot of dysfunction as adults as well. And so to go backwards to address what you said, there are methods of parenting and discipline that you can use that doesn't have to traumatize the kid.
Right.
Physical discipline is a direct correlation from slavery.
I hear that.
It's a direct correlation from slavery. We didn't used to do that, when we were in a different setting. We only adopted that means of discipline because that's what we received for ourselves.
Right.
So now we're going to enact that same type of discipline to our kids, which is going to traumatize them, because that's the same thing. You're coming at them with anger, with aggression, with violence. That's traumatizing. Like I said, we've normalized it. I got beat with the extension cord a couple times.
I got
with the broom, with the pot, with the sandals, you name it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's not normal, and so what it does to a kid, it puts them in a hyper alert state, so that you can see a kid who's been traumatized when you turn around at a kid and the kid's like, they're already thinking about to get the hand. And you're like, right? That's trauma. A kid not supposed to be living like that. They're supposed to believe that their environment is safe, so that the suggestion of what you can do is parent and discipline through their identity. Right? Not a physical type of discipline, but through their identity. If they understand who they are, then they will act according to that identity.
Right.
Versus punishing by physical means, because that's taking them outside of who we are. You know,
say that one more time. Say that. You said.
So if you can discipline based on their identity, right, you're allowing them to go back to who they are. So when you see a behavior that's not according to your identity, right, then you can realign them back to that identity by challenging their understanding of who they are, right? You forgot who you are. Do you know who you are? Do you know whose son you are? Do you know who I am? Do you understand what I represent? Have you seen that behavior in me or your mother? Right? Let's get back realigned to who you are. Do you know who your grandfather is? Do you know who your great grandfather is? Let's get in line with that reality versus trying to punish them. And when you do that, you're pushing them further away from the alignment with you. Nobody's gonna be aligned with the person who's punishing them. I want to get away from that. But more likely than not, because that's been normalized in my life, I'm gonna recreate it when I become an adult too.
Wow. All right. That was the nugget drop today.
That boy brought a whole box of mics and just dropped them.
So I want to hold you too much longer, but I appreciate you. Listen,
I got a little bit more time, and my session ain't gonna come until 12. I don't know if you guys gotta go, but
no. Oh no, I'm just I'm kind of I always get to the wrap about 20 minutes in, so we can keep on pace. But make sure you follow this gentleman at Beachstone Counseling and it's Mat Jeanius.
Yes, Mat Jeanius.
All right, Mat.
I told you about that before. My last name is actually Jean, transitioning to Genius because I'm trying to birth my own legacy right there, man.
Yes, there you go. I was just gonna get ready to say, man, that's a pretty cool last name, brother.
And for all those listening, it's Mat Jeanius, Jeanius, Jeanius. So make sure you follow this gentleman. He is an amazing counselor. He has already dropped you some nuggets. He is legit.
Go ahead, run it back. Run it back.
Yeah, and it's funny because I started going to therapy because I was trying to fix my marriage. Like I was like, what's wrong with me? What am I out of line with? And I've been to like 3 different ones, over time, moving and things of that nature. And it's so funny though. Everybody's a little different. Yeah. Because what I realized with therapy is still based on the personality in the sense, like they're giving you professional help, but it's still based on, what they see in you or how to fix your situation. So I say that. So how do you find a therapist that fits into that will be able to get you where you need to go in a sense of a mental health space?
Right. You got to shop around. You really have to shop around. And what I mean by that is that don't take your first, second, third impression as the final impression. There are thousands of great therapists out there. You just have to do the work. You have to find that one that works for you. Right. All therapists are created equal. The work I do in my office isn't the work, a person that graduated with me, studied the same thing I studied, will do in their office. I know what I bring to the table. I bring, of course, all of my education, but I also bring my lived experience.
Right.
I bring, a lot of things that I specific to our community because I know us, Right. And so what I do is it's not just my therapy, it's the environment I set up. My office is so specific to a safe environment that it's a safe environment for me,
Right. Okay.
I have to address a lot of, issues day after day, and I have to be okay in this space. And so I designed this space for my clients to feel comfortable in here, but I also want to make sure that I can have sustainability in here as well, So everything that I do in my practice is intentional. I say I'm a Black male therapist. That's what I advertise as. Black male therapist. Also deal with sports and entertainment. So I deal with a lot of athletes and entertainers as well, So I created a space to welcome them in. When they come in, they feel like they're at home. My waiting area looks like a living room. It's like I kid you not, it looks like a living room, and it's very comfortable. The colors are very vibrant. With the name Beachstone Counseling, it's a beach themed office.
Nice.
When you see the colors, the aroma, you come in, it smells nice, and I take pride in that because everything is therapeutic.
Right.
Yeah.
It's from the beginning.
You gotta have it set up so when they walk in, they feel like they're in a different space, you know.
Right.
And then what I really, really love, guys, what I really love is that when they walk in and they see me, they're like, where's the therapist? They're like, where's the therapist at? You know what I'm saying?
I'm right here, bro.
That's what I'm saying. And what that does to them, that's a shock value because I'm like this, like you see me right now.
Yes.
This is how I am for the most part. You know, I'm just like this. The glasses is only because I'm on the screen, and I wear this to protect my eyes because I've been doing more online sessions. So I got this is it. This is what they get, right? So when they walk in and they have that shock factor, that allows me to come in and let them know, hey, listen, man, I'm just like you, bro.
Right.
You know? You sizing me, I'm sizing you too, man. You know, you see me, I see you too. You can talk about me, I can talk about my hood too. You know, so let's put all of that behind us and let's work. You know,
let's work.
I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to make you feel less than. I'm not here to to hold my degrees over your head. You know, none of that stuff. So when they come in, we're equal. I'm learning from you. You're learning from me. We're gonna share on this journey together. And what I guarantee my clients is that I will always work hard for them. But don't let me do all the heavy lifting, because once that happens, I'm going to send you somewhere else. You know.
Gotcha.
You know, I don't mind doing that. I don't mind telling a client, look, this is not working out because I feel like I'm working harder than you.
Right.
So when you're ready to work, we can work. But don't let me do all the. It's not about the money for me. I want to make sure that people are coming and getting help.
Right.
You know? So don't come in my office and not be ready to work because I'll send you away.
Right.
Yeah. Well, y'all heard it.
Ready
to put all of that plays a role in it.
His office smell good, and he black. Pull it together. You come in and get ready to work. Get ready to come. But Matt, man, I'm glad you came through.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you for coming through. We really appreciate you. Like I said, I've seen you twice this week. I saw you on Monday, and I see you on Thursday. What a blessing that is.
Yes, it is.
Such a good looking man, no homo. With the dimples and the whole 9 yards. I said it this morning on the Puzzle Legacy. I was like, no homo.
I appreciate that.
Man. All right. So we got one. You got a book out. You have a book already.
I've written 2 children's books already.
Okay.
Right. And the next book is going to deal with more parenting, and we have some subsequent books coming. The first book I wrote was for school. I have school age kid. I don't know, Terry, you knew, but I have triplets.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think I came in or I left right when you guys were talking about that Monday. I was like, how many kids you got?
I got a 4-pack, man. I got a 4-pack, triplets and a big sister, all girls.
Yes.
Right? All girls.
Good times.
There you go, man. Hey, I need all of it. Send all of it my way, man. I need all of it. So the first book I wrote was specifically for kids about going to school. I wrote a book called Go to School Every Day. And in that book, it addresses the need for kids to be in school because that's where they have the best opportunity to change the trajectory of their future, right? So the book is called Go to School Every Day. It's about a Black boy who wanted to have perfect attendance, and he had some issues throughout the school year, but eventually, came to a solution on how he got that accomplished. So that was that book, and all my books are Black. Everybody's Black in that book.
Nice.
Good.
And the second book, I think, is my favorite thus far. It's called When the Tablets Ran Away. And both of them could be found on Amazon. When the Tablets Ran Away speaks to our kids' addiction to these things right here. To these
man.
Right?
Yeah.
And so in that book, we talk about the parents and the teachers plotting against the kids to make sure that they can get rid of these, right? The parents and the teachers had a PTA meeting, and they had this thing where they stole the kids' electronics, right? And the kids lost it. The kids were like all over the place. They were in distress, but the parents and the teachers had a plan. They worked through the issue, and they got the kids stable to where the kids can start playing and, being more social and emotional. So that's a second book I wrote as well.
Nice.
Great book, man. Both can be found on Amazon. Please check them out.
Yes, indeed. All right. So we appreciate you, Matt, rolling in and dropping some nuggets and being a blessing. We definitely, like I tell a lot of my great guests, we definitely gonna have you back on, especially the PTSD after this election, the stress on both sides. And honestly, I'll say on both sides, because both sides are kind of stressing out, and how we can definitely get that help. that mental health space is important. So my question, right? So how do we normalize therapy? You know, how do we begin to normalize therapy? Being young, how do you normalize therapy?
That's a great question, man. And I like, so now that you got this setup actually helps me out explaining that in a couple minutes, right? The setup that we have with the three of us, you know, side by side like that. Terry, you're gonna be our thinking, right? So wave your hand. You're gonna be our thinking, right? You're gonna represent our thinking. So wave your hand at the camera. You are thinking, right?
I'm thinking. Yeah.
There you go. Terry's thinking. AD, you're gonna be our behaviors, right? There you go. And I'll be our feelings, right?
Okay.
And together we make up mental health. Okay. Terry's the thinking. I'm the feeling. You are the behavior, AD, right?
Right.
So, AD, I need you to start boxing at the camera real quick.
Okay.
Just throw some blows, right?
Okay.
For the most part, that's what we focus on. We focus on behavior.
Behavior, right.
Behavior is only 1/3 of our mental health. But we focus on what we can see and ignore the other two.
Wow.
That's why a lot of our Black men, our Black boys, are diagnosed so heavily because we only focus on the behavior, not addressing the thinking, Terry, and the emotion. Right. So what I like to do is when I present this, you know, this specific presentation, what all three of us would do, we'll link arms, right? We'll link arms and we'll stand up in front of the audience. And so if we were all linked by arms and I took a knee, what would happen to you two?
Right.
What would happen?
Drag down.
Yeah. So if the feelings are impacted, this was what happened to the thinking.
You get struck down.
And what's what happened to the behavior?
Right. It gets
down. Same thing. So it doesn't matter where the impact is, all three are interconnected. So the way to help people understand that it's a full body disease when you talk about mental health. It's not just in here, it impacts not just your feeling and your thinking, it impacts your behaviors.
Right.
You know? And so once you can see that the behaviors aren't in isolation, what AD was doing was because something was going on with the feelings.
Right. Because
was going on with the reacting.
Right.
Exactly. You only see that, but you don't account for what's going on in here and what's going on in here. You got to see all three. And if you understand all three is connected, then you can start seeing the value in investing in your mental health. Your mental health isn't just about what's in here. It's about your whole entire being, you know, your mind, your emotions, and your heart. So understanding that, then you see the value in it. I can't ignore my thinking because it's going to impact my behaviors. I can't ignore my behaviors because it's going to impact my emotions. I can't ignore my emotions because it's going to impact all three, you know?
Right.
That's good. So advancing it forward, right? So, you know, most of the time with therapy, you end up with one-on-one, meaning one-on-one.
Right.
So is it possible to have like a group session to introduce to people, get people in the mindset? Because like I like that example, get people in the mindset that therapy's here so you're not broken, you know, like so you don't let me show you how to make sure your life going forward into adulthood is the best space possible mentally.
Of course, that's called psychoeducational, right? Psychoeducation is basically psychological education, right? And so that's just a presentation. That's just a workshop.
Yeah,
I've done plenty of those. I have a bunch of those at the ready. So you name a topic, I probably got it already covered that I can come in and talk about. You know, for a group of men, for a group of teenage boys, for a group of young women, you name it. I got it. I got it in the pocket already. You know, and these presentations are important because that's how the normalization of these conversations are had.
Right.
One of my favorite presentations that I like to do is an impromptu skit.
Okay.
It's an impromptu skit that gets people out of their seats and get them involved so that they can see how they are impacted by it, you know. So once they've already acted out, once I give them all the instructions and they act it out, then they're like, man, I didn't see it that way before.
Right.
I didn't see how that's me. You know, that's actually me in that scenario. So I can see it in a different way, how everybody's impacted and how all of us have our different perspective based on our thinking, Terry, our feelings, our behaviors. Right. All of that changes our vantage point. You have back pain, you're gonna see the world in a different way. Right. You're grieving It could be a beautiful day outside, but the day is ugly for you.
Right.
You got a headache. You're not in the mood to converse. You don't want to be emotional. You know what I'm saying? All of it is interconnected. And the more we see that, the more we can address it holistically.
Right.
Wow. Yeah. So Matthew is available for all appearances, quinceañeras.
That's it. Let him know, man. Let him know, man.
Call him, hit him up, man. I'm telling you.
I do bar mitzvahs too. Come on.
Right.
Yeah.
We're definitely gonna stay in contact. Oh yeah, because I want to build something around that. Like this therapy. Maybe I'll make a shirt. Therapy is normal.
Therapy is normal.
Man, there are a lot of I told you I have the business called Sober Words, which I'm rebranding right now.
Yeah.
But Sober Words is a company that fights stigma associated with substance abuse and mental health.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you saw the hoodie. That was the matching hoodie you saw.
Yeah. I need one of those. I'll tell you.
All right. So we're gonna get out of here. So we appreciate you rocking with us. Thank you, Matt, for hanging with us. Thank you everybody for listening and watching.
Sure.
This has been informative. This is just the beginning of a new space that we're stepping into. So we appreciate you. So make sure you share. Like I said, rate us on Apple Podcasts. Give us a good rating. Give us some good comments. It helps us out, and it's a blessing to us. It encourages us to do more. All right. So as always, keep pushing, keep growing. We'll see you guys next week with another edition of the Brothers Who Talk. Peace out.
And this is when the outro will play.
Thank you for watching and listening to the Brothers Who Talk. Brothers Who Talk with Terry and AD. Check us out again next week, where we bring you a steaming helping of common sense, laughs, and advice. We can be found on any podcasting platform, iTunes, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. We're also on milehighradio.com, Saturdays at 12 Eastern. See you there.